Alright, I didn't make a Google is evil video today. Officially, that'll show up as the 11th because it's 1 o'clock, 1:18 in the morning, so it's officially August 12th, but for me it's still the 11th. So, anyway, the thing I was going to talk about today is that, constantly people on these free speech, on privately owned website issues, people are like, they don't have an obligation. We're talking about what the law should be. This is politics. This is what the law should be. We're talking about what the law should be, and you act so dense because it's not complicated. You understand the idea of a carrier, a phone carrier, right? And why they don't tap your calls and cut off your phone calls based on what they hear. You understand that concept? And then there's the idea of a private establishment. And then there's something in between. If somebody opens up a place where anybody can come and it becomes so popular because they really have a great free speech, and then they start cutting out who can actually come so that it looks like it's open still because that's the reputation, but it's not. Okay, this is like a phone to phone because, and you guys are always assuming that things just work out this way. No, Verizon turned out giving the NARAL a 5-digit code like you have to be able to get updates and stuff from people, which is used by people that want to contact NARAL. They refused that. Now, they rescinded that decision. This is back in 2007. But that's a phone, see? That's a phone, and between you and an organization you want to talk to, and they're imposing themselves, you see, and they're a carrier. Right, and these phones are becoming smartphones. So we're going to have internet on there, but suddenly it's not really internet. They can just control it, and they can tier it and do all the rest of it. We don't have to let them do that. We're discussing how the law should be. And I believe if you are making your living off of public communication or anything that impacts the first 10 amendments, then you're going to have to work with those 10 amendments. Your industry is going to be regulated as though it impacts them. And not just the 10 amendments, but important things like medicine. You're in medicine, yes, there's going to be some regulation over what drugs you can release and the claims you can make and so on and so forth. Okay? And people are always whining, but it's their property, and how dare you be confiscating? I'm not confiscating their property. Google has made billions of dollars hooking onto the internet. Now they want to change the internet. They could just go create their own network. Why don't they do that? Because even Google, with all their money, can't create a whole network. They have to hook to ours. So they're beholden to us and the rules of the road that we say. And if we want to invent the idea of a carrier of the public debate and say that, listen, this is a free speech zone when you carry public debate, and have specific rules for when you carry debates that aren't considered public. For example, whether or not it's available to people that haven't registered. Can people that haven't registered watch it? Do people that register, do they have to pay? How private of a club has it been made? The legal system judges these kinds of gradient criteria all the time, okay? And it's not that complicated to say publish yourself and that everybody can browse and that this is a medium. I am communicating with other YouTube vloggers, not YouTube. It's not YouTube to me. It's not like YouTube could say, oh, I don't like you anymore, so you can't talk to anybody else either. Not really, yeah. Oh, but now jump on me and go, well, actually they can. That's law. I'm talking about what the law should be. There should be an idea of a public carrier, a carrier of the public debate. And they should have standards of free speech that are protected and actually required. Why? So that they don't get pressured constantly from their, in random directions from their advertisers to mold the audience in a certain way that that advertiser thinks that particular quarter is going to be beneficial to them. Okay. Instead, they won't be able to pressure them because there'll be rules. You want to do public debate. And if you don't want to do a public debate, don't do it. Make your money elsewhere. Weave baskets. It doesn't matter. But when you're going to make billions of dollars off of hooking to the internet, but you also want to tell the internet how it should be, like it's totally private, then just go make your own totally private thing. As far as you guys always say, oh, you could always go somewhere else. Well, so can they. They could go somewhere else. The government invented this. End of story. You could pretend they didn't, blah, blah, blah. They did. Anybody that hooks up to it, we can set the rules of the road. We have to set the rules of the road. And, oh my God, free speech is actually important. It's not just important on paper and then a privatized world where you don't get any. It's important that the result of this culture be that you get your free speech. You understand that? If you think that privatized people are allowed to interfere with free speech, then that's just a way of saying that everything has to be socialized. See, we're not going to be putting up with that. The private sector wants to say, we do everything the best. Well, get us free speech then, the best, or else we'll use other means. You are going to allow us to have our free speech. We're going to get our free speech. And if all of our communication is over private networks, then private networks are going to have a contract, a social contract, where they provide a basis upon the standards that the whole nation is based. And that's just the way it is. The nation existed before, the Bill of Rights existed before, the internet existed before them. They're all coming up secondary. They know what they've gotten into. It's not just the customers and the citizens that have to, well, you know what you got into. You signed on to a private thing. Well, no. We don't have to do that. We could protect the citizens and say, hey, you have to have certain standards if you're going to have this open debate of this huge scale, or any scale, really. It's more, to me, how you engage your site. And if you put users in connections with other users, and you are not really the middleman, you're not a salesman that's taking leads from one person and filling them out to a salesman. I'm talking directly to the other users. That connectivity through this service, and the fact that the service is designed to provide that, and that the service's success is on that, is enough to say, look, you've profited a lot from this method. We can go ahead and have a say that we're going to continue in the same tradition that we have so far, because that's working. Okay, look at the private networks. None of them grew. Microsoft thought they'd have one. MSN was supposed to be an alternate to the internet. I was there when this happened, and lots of companies thought, no, we're going to have an alternate to the internet. Nobody will ever have an email address an internet email address on their card. That's crazy. Famous Bill Gates quote. Well, they do, and the other networks didn't work. There's lots of huge cable networks. They're no good on their own. It's got to be hooked to the whole world. Rules of the road. We can say what the rules of the road are. Everybody that connects to you is going over this public infrastructure, and it's owned by parts. Yeah, well, when the commercial companies begged us to be able to get in on this and provide some of the backbone, they assured us that they were very interested in the way the internet worked and that they would perpetuate that. And they begged to be involved, and they got to be involved, and they've made tons of money. We don't owe them for that. If anything, they still owe us. But how about this? Nobody owes anybody anything, but let's just face facts. We, the citizens, make the rules of the road. If we want to invent an idea of a public carrier, which we obviously do, we can do that. All right, this has been your Google is Evil moment for yesterday.